All right, so I've made quite a few changes to the build. I'm now playing Ice Shot. So Ice Shot got like quadruple nerfed in the last patch. Um, Let me bring up the patch note quick. Ice Shot's shards gain additional projectiles as it levels up. The shards now target within a 90-degree cone. The shards now travel further, and the arrow and projectiles are smaller and the same size as other arrows. I don't know. This is probably maybe a nerf because their hitbox is smaller. Not sure. And then there's another ice shot line. Oh, and now it can freeze. That was the biggest deal with ice shot and why it was bad earlier is because it couldn't freeze. You deal all this cold damage and you couldn't freeze, you couldn't shatter. It sucked. But pretty much, I tested ice shot out after that patch a couple days ago after it got giga buffed. And I played around with some support gems and I found out a good combo that works. The clear, in my opinion, is better than lightning arrow by a lot. Um, and that's mostly because of the way that ice shot works, the shards that it shoots out. Um, that paired with ricochet, those shards will hit terrain and bounce and chain to other monsters. So the clear is crazy good. So for my 5 link setup right now, I'm using Martial Tempo, Cold Infusion, Ice Bite, and Ricochet. My 6th link here would probably be Fork. Fork increase the clear a lot, but if you don't feel the need to have more clear, you can just put in Primal Armament. Um, yeah, I I think this bow is new. Um, yeah, just a big fizz bow on a dual string base. Plus one prod is nice too. I got a higher evasion body armor. No spirit on it though. So I can't I'm not using Herald of Thunder anymore, but I don't really need to because I'm pure cold. This ring's the same. I just bought this ring. It gives me a lot of life and attributes. I didn't need the res that much, so I just got one piece of res. Same quiver as last time. There it is just for reference. I'll hover all the rest of my gear in case you haven't seen it. My amulet. What? Um, I'll go over my tree. So a big thing is the clear of Ice Shot is really good, but single target is lacking because you can no longer chain Lightning Arrow off of Lightning Rod. It's purely Ice Shot, meaning your single target is going to suffer a little bit because of the lack of Lightning Rod damage. But what I figured out is it really sucks because you have to buy another bow. But this is just like a 20x bow. It's whatever. And then like a 15x quiver or something. Uh, I'm using a weapon swap passive tree. So everything you see in green here is for my single target setup. So obviously I'm doing full lightning, so I'm taking lightning pen. The lightning with non-crits is lucky. This is really big damage. I even go down here because it's only for single target. This increased damage with hits against rare and unique enemies. That's just really good. That makes sense. Um, I go out of this bow wheel node here. Uh, when I'm on, so red. You see red here. That's my clear, my ice shot, and then anything that's green on the tree is my single target um, cast on shock setup. I'll go over that later too. But the main thing is cast on shock, ball lightning, triggering the lightning rods, which shock, which triggers the cast on shock. It's a huge loop. So because I'm only using Herald of Ice, I only get cold damage on Ice Shot. I only benefit on my single target. So that is on my weapon set 1 point set. This is kind of confusing. So feel free to pause and kind of go over. Just remember anything that's weapon set 1, that is my clear, that is red lines on the tree. So I want I wanted increases and reductions to projectile speed on my clear, as well as attack speed on my clear, because this quiver has projectile speed, so that's a lot of damage to get this node. And attack speed is good on clear, whereas you don't really need that much attack speed for the single target because you're not attacking that often. I got rid of this chaining from terrain for my single target. I'm cold pen on clear, lightning pen on single target. I took this reduced mana cost node for the single target because the cast on shock setup uses a lot of mana. My single target, I went into more lightning damage right here. I'm going up here just for jewel sockets because jewel sockets are really good. I am in this cold stuff for my clear, not so much on my single target, so I'm not in it. What else? I think that's it for the tree. Oh, I'm also not taking the attack speed per accuracy and accuracy wheel for my single target because I don't need the attack speed. That's pretty much it. I only take this on clear, the freeze buildup, chance to shock, electrocute buildup. Although, looking at this now, all this really does for my ice shot is freeze buildup, which I have so much of already. Probably doesn't matter that much. I don't know. I can look at it later. Yeah, those are the tree changes. It's a little confusing with the weapon swap, but you know, I had to make something work for single target. So how this? Oh, perfect. I'm gonna try an arbiter out. I just did the breach boss. You'll see that later. So the way this works is ice shot is my clear, right? It's on my right click. I have it enabled with weapon set 1 only. So that's this weapon with the +1 arrow. For your second weapon, oh, you can hover here. I didn't even know you could do that. You do not need multiple arrows, just as much fizz damage as you can get. So this actually has more fizz DPS than this bow, but it doesn't have +1 arrow because you don't need it. So yeah, I was saying eye shot is only used with weapon 1. So when I right click with eye shot, I'm using this weapon. I want that, right? When I do single target, the single target rotation is you see either a really tanky rare or a map boss or a pinnacle boss. You press Q, or in my case, I press Q for lightning rod, and that automatically switched to this bow, which switched my tree over to the lightning damage tree, the single target tree that I just went over. And now I'm dealing mostly all lightning damage. And you can do that automatically by saying just use with weapon set 2 here. So anything that's single target, you only want to use with weapon set 2. So Orb of Storms I use to proc the lightning rods to get the cast on shock started. So you want Orb of Storms, weapon set 2, lightning rod, weapon set 2, cast on shock, weapon set 2. I use cast on freeze for a little bit more clear. This should only be weapon set 1. Barrage I use both in case I see a tanky rare. I can, press barrage and then use my ice shot to fire it a couple more times. Or I could use barrage lightning arrow to repeat it. Yeah, so I'm normally, ice shotting around. I press Q, it swaps over to my correct tree. It goes from cast on freeze to cast on shock. You'll see it switches over and it stays enabled. That's really nice. I don't have to do any swaps. I've seen some other swaps where, you have to disable cast on freeze, enable cast on shock. That was so annoying. So I just, using the weapon swap setup, it automatically switches over. I'll go over my gem links for everything really quickly. Orb of Storms, I use this to chain off the lightning rods just to start the cast on shock loop. So I'm using chain, persistence, so they stay down longer, and electrocute. I don't think this is doing much. If you had a third and fourth support here, I would use Unleash and +1 to limit, so that way you could have 2 Orb of Storms get placed down at the same time. Lightning Rod, this is your big single target DPS. Scatter Shot, so that way you only have to, I think the max amount of lightning rods is 15. I'm shooting 4 at a time, so I only have to shoot a few times. Without Scatter Shot, you'd have to use it way more often, so this is much better. Quality of life thing. More chance to shock to proc your cast on shock. Primal Armament, just more weapon damage, and Heft for more max fizz. Since this is all fizz conversion, this gives me quite a bit. Herald Device, this is big clear. Magnified effects for AoE, Ally Focus for more damage, and Cold Mastery just for some more flat damage. Wind Dancer for the evasion. I use Blind, so Wind Dancer, when you get hit, it sends out a Gale Force and knocks back enemies. That will also blind the enemies when that triggers. Precision for the increased accuracy rating while it's active, and the mana regen also while it's active. That's really good for the single target. You need a lot of mana. Ice Shot, I went over this already, but Martial Tempo. Without Martial Tempo, it's really annoying. I would recommend going. Sure. Cold Infusion, Ice Bite, Ricochet. If you want to, you could try Fork over Ricochet and then take these Fork nodes instead of the Ricochet nodes. I just try it out and see what you like better. Personally, I like the Ricochet better. Cast on Shock, this is your big damage. You want to go Ball Lightning, less projectile speed, so that way you're getting more triggers per Ball Lightning on your lightning rods. I use Impetus for increased energy, so this triggers more often. And Inspiration, because the mana cost is so crazy, and I didn't want to buy a Thief's Torment. That's a mana on hit ring. It's multiple div. I don't need it. I didn't want to try to afford it. Cast on Freeze for clear. Frost Wall. It's just nice to have a little bit more freezing explosions. Just gives you a little bit more clear. Looks cool. Frost Bomb, that applies exposure. I use Energy Retention just to give a little bit more trigger rate on the cast on freeze. And Spell Echo, so that way when, I don't know if this is actually working. It's possible it is. Instead of Spell Echo, you can also go Spell Cascade. I was getting stuck on my Frost Walls when doing that though, so I switched off that. Barrage for Premeditation and Murderous Intent. So I guess it's good if you're bossing. You would use Barrage to throw down a bunch of lightning arrows and then use your Orb of Storms. So that way your lightning arrows lightning rods are dealing 15% more damage and they have Culling Strike. Those are all the gems. I will attempt Arbiter now. Just for fun. I've never done this boss before. We'll see if I can do it. I have seen gameplay of him, so I know how to know what I should do for the most part. Hopefully I don't fail. I think I'll be okay. Because you should see the damage is pretty nuts. I just did the Xesht, the breach boss, and interesting. My game just crashed. That means I just wasted all the keys. I am not gonna be happy. That would be very sad. Portals are still here. Is the door going to be open? We're okay, thank God. Arbiter of Ash. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how you're supposed to dodge that. Kind of insane. Interesting. Well, that just shows you my bossing mechanics are bad. Um, we'll throw in a. I mean, you saw the damage though, and you'll see the breach boss later. That was pretty easy. And delirium, why not? And that arbiter fight, I don't know. Maybe you like have to take blink. That might just be the only way to do that. That was. I have fast movement speed, but I don't know how I'm dodging that beam realistically. So that rare is kind of tanky. I just throw my single target stuff on him. And he gets melted pretty fast. Stuck there. Going to tactically log out to prevent me losing XP. This is. I'm deep into a delirium with a breach running at the same time, so that was pretty difficult. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, Ice Shot feels pretty good. My clear would not be as good with Lightning Arrow at all, I don't think. And I like the fact you freeze way easier. Yeah, like look how fast that rare died. You're just crazy. Single target damage is crazy. Biggest downside, you have to have a weapon swap. But I think that it's worth it. Yeah. Here's my little showcase of how I turn this build into Ice Shot. And a failure on Arbiter, but I killed Xesht, so happy with that. You guys got any questions? Leave in the comments. Just get Fizzbows. Replicate my setup. I don't know. Yeah, if you have any suggestions for what to put in Cast on Freeze, because I don't know if Frostwall and Frostbomb are the best. I don't know if Spell Echo even works correctly. Yeah. And then Electrocute. This is obviously doing nothing because Orb of Storm's DPS is 66. Yeah. Yeah, I might probably gonna be the last update on this build. We're just gonna move to something else later if I even keep playing. But yeah, there's a little update for you guys. See y'all.